All right, let's get right into it. We're always told that getting good with money is all about what you know. It's got to be about complex spreadsheets, fancy formulas, being some kind of financial wizard. But what if that's not the whole story? What if our relationship with money has way more to do with psychology than it does with pure intelligence?
So here's the big question we're kicking off with. Is doing well with your money really about how smart you are? Is it about the finance books you've read?
Or is it actually about something much more human? The core idea we're digging into is that it's all about how you behave. It's your habits, your fears, your biases, your own personal history with money. That's what truly drives financial success or failure.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with our personal money stories. Then we'll get into the powerful unseen forces of luck and risk. After that, we'll talk about the super dangerous never enough trap, and we'll wrap it all up with how to build real lasting wealth.
All right, first up, this is a big one. The idea that when it comes to money, nobody is crazy. I know, some decisions people make look absolutely nuts from the outside, but to them, they make perfect sense. Let's find out why.
Just let this quote sink in for a second. That tiny, tiny sliver of life that you've personally lived, your family's views, your first paycheck, your own ups and downs, that little fraction of reality makes up almost your entire worldview on how money works. It becomes your truth.
And this explains so much, doesn't it? Of course, someone who grew up in the Great Depression is going to view stocks differently than a millennial who saw the dot-com boom. Your background, your generation, it all shapes a unique narrative. And we use that story to fill in all the gaps in our knowledge, which makes our choices feel completely rational to us, even if they look bonkers to someone else.
So the bottom line is this. We aren't crazy. We're all just playing a different game with different rules, shaped by our own limited view of the world. It really makes you think. Next time you see someone make a weird money decision, maybe the question isn't what's wrong with them, but what has that person seen that I haven't?
Okay, let's build on that. Because it's not just our personal stories that are pulling the strings. There are these huge, powerful forces out there that we often just ignore. I'm talking about luck and its identical twin, risk.
This image really says it all, doesn't it? Luck and risk are two sides of the exact same coin. We love to talk about hard work and grit, and that stuff is important, for sure. But the truth is, every single outcome in life is guided by forces completely outside of our individual effort.
And this story, wow, it makes it so real. Think about Bill Gates. Incredibly smart, yes, but he also hit a 1 in a million jackpot of luck by going to one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer in the 1960s. Now think about his best friend, Kent Evans. Just as smart, just as passionate, but he was hit by a 1 in a million tragedy, a random accident, and never got to see his potential. Same talent, same drive, but luck and risk sent them on dramatically different paths.
And that's the big lesson here, right? It forces us to realize that success isn't always a result of hard work, and poverty isn't always because of laziness. We have to account for these massive, invisible forces when we look at our own lives and the lives of others.
All right, let's talk about something really dangerous, a trap that gets even the smartest, most successful people. It's the never enough trap. It's that point where your ambition, the very thing that got you to the top, turns around and starts to destroy you.
Oh man, this story is just perfect. It gets right to the heart of it. So you have this billionaire hedge fund manager at a party, and Joseph Heller, the author of a literary masterpiece. And Heller understands this deep, profound truth, the ability to feel content, to know when to stop. That is a type of wealth that no amount of money can ever buy. He had enough.
And if you think that's just a nice little anecdote, history is littered with some pretty scary examples. Look at Rajat Gupta, a CEO with $100 million. But it wasn't enough. The hunger for $1 billion led him to insider trading, and he ended up in prison. Or Bernie Madoff. He already had a wildly successful, totally legal business, but that insatiable desire for more led him to build one of the biggest frauds in history, destroying thousands of lives in the process.
And that's the trap, isn't it? That huge gap between what you have and what you want. It can be an endless pit of misery. Honestly, the hardest financial skill in the world has nothing to do with numbers. It's learning how to get the goalposts to just stop moving. It's about defining your own enough.
Okay, let's bring all this home. How do we actually use these lessons to build financial security that actually lasts? Well, it all starts with understanding one huge difference, the difference between being rich and being wealthy.
So, being rich. This is what you see.
It's a high income, it's the fancy car, the big house, the designer clothes you see on Instagram. It's loud. It's visible. Rich is what you spend.
But wealth is totally different. Wealth is quiet, it's invisible. It's the money you don't spend. It's the assets in your savings and investment accounts working for you behind the scenes. Wealth isn't about showing off, it's about having options and freedom.
And this right here is a golden rule. Building real wealth has surprisingly little to do with how much you earn or how brilliant of an investor you are. It has everything to do with your savings rate. A person with a modest salary can become incredibly wealthy if they save consistently. It's the most powerful lever you have.
And you've got to understand this. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different skills. To get wealth, you need to take risks, be optimistic. But to keep it, you need the opposite. You need humility. You need a little bit of paranoia and the deep understanding that risk can take it all away just as fast.
If you need one single piece of proof for how powerful this concept is, get a load of this number. Of Warren Buffett's roughly $84.5 billion net worth, over $84 billion of it came after his 50th birthday. Just think about that. How is that even possible?
Well, the answer is the absolute magic of compounding. His real genius wasn't in being the world's best investor year after year. It was in being a pretty good investor consistently for more than 75 years without getting wiped out. He just gave his money an incredible amount of time to grow. His superpower is longevity.
So let's wrap this all up. Here are the big takeaways. First, how you behave is way more important than how smart you are. Second, understand your own money story and have some empathy for yourself. Third, always respect the massive roles of luck and risk. Fourth, define what enough means to you so you can avoid that dangerous trap. And finally, focus on your savings rate and just give your investments time. Be patient.
And that leaves us with one final thought, a question for you to take with you. Since we know our behavior is driven by the stories we tell ourselves, what is one financial story you've been telling yourself that, after hearing all this, might just be worth rewriting?